For more on how the city is mourning the loss of Corporal Nathan Cirillo, Mayor Bob Bratina joins us now. And so, Mayor, you met with Corporal Cirillo's family. How are they doing?
Well, not very well, to be honest. It was such a shock and an ironic way for a soldier to lose his life. And so I visited with Chief of Police DeCare, the family, yesterday. And we had hugs and we had tears and we had some conversation, especially about how he was so interested in the military from an early age, starting as a 13-year-old cadet and then transitioning to the reserves, and a very proud soldier with the Argylls. And but today they're mainly in seclusion, and I think the stages of grief are going to be something to overcome. Acceptance is such a long way away because of the sadness of the circumstances. And what I mean by that is the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders are a combat regiment. These are warriors trained to do the dirty work of fighting wars in the theater. And he, the late corporal, was an outstanding soldier and won many of the competitions, bayonet fighting, all of the things that you have to develop skills as a rifleman and so on. We sent 68 people from the Hamilton Argylls to Afghanistan. They all came back. We lost a soldier standing in ceremonial guard as a sentry in Ottawa at the cenotaph. You can see how tragic all this is, and I think it's only dawning on us even more heavily today as we contemplate the loss of this fine young man and get to know more about him.
You say that when you met with the family that you shared hugs and you shared tears. What did they share with you about how they were remembering Nathan? Well,
it's so touching for me. In the east end of Hamilton, a good working class neighborhood, spotless home, the kind of people that I grew up with, and so we certainly had a lot in common. But in terms of the young man, his picture was on the wall with his two sisters. They were grief-stricken to the point that we weren't able to converse at too great a length. But I think that what I would like to share with you is that toward the end of our session in meeting with them, a little 5-year-old, beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy with a bit of a smile on his face walked into the room and walked up to one of the women and said, "I saw you crying." That was Nathan's son. And he obviously will take a long time as the family tries to speak to him about the fact that father is not going to be coming home. But at what point does a 5-year-old actually totally understand that? So that's one of the further problems and one of the reasons I think that for today, at least, the family continues to be in seclusion and not wishing to speak, although they did appreciate the visit of Chief DeCare and myself in their home, out of the public eye.
That is a really sad story, and I know that there are others. As we've been speaking, we've seen some people wipe away tears at that memorial, that makeshift memorial behind you. How would you say your city is coping with all of this?
Well, we're coping as best we can. We, of course, understand that when you put on the uniform of the Canadian military, there's a chance that you'll be in harm's way. But the circumstances, first of all of Hamilton shared with Canada the tragedy of the incident itself, the shooting of a soldier, the shooting of the assailant in the center block. But then, when we learned that it's one of our beloved Highland Regiment soldiers who lost his life there so tragically, because he would certainly have the combat skills to confront an assailant, but he was taken in a cowardly ambush. It's hard for us to cope with it, and we're trying our best.
And I know that is, as I've been mentioning, a makeshift memorial. Incredible to see the number of people that are coming to pay their respects. But you are planning a memorial for Nathan. What details can you tell us about that? I know it's early going, but any details?
Well, our hope is that there will be a funeral of full military honors, which is under the direction of the regiment and the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Hatfield. That will be done in conjunction with the family. Mrs. Cirillo, the mother, went to Ottawa yesterday, and I anticipate upon her return that we will actually know what the details are. There are so many things to consider, and I'll give you one example. One of the things that you can do with full military honors is have a rifle volley. That may upset them, and so they would be asked whether it would be appropriate for them to have that salute take place or not. And you can imagine the reasons why they may say not. So all sorts of things have to come into play, including, most of all, respect for the family's wishes. And upon hearing that, then we can continue to offer suggestions as to what our participation would be in a funeral itself. And you'll recall that a year ago we had the funeral for the late Lieutenant Governor Lincoln Alexander, somewhat of a state funeral here in the city of Hamilton. So we're capable of doing what's necessary, but I think there is an anticipation, as you suggest, that the community needs to come forward with something else, more in terms of a permanent memorial. And that can only take place after we have that discussion with the family.
In the meantime, that makeshift memorial behind you is looking rather nice today. Thank you, Mayor, for taking the time.
Well, we really appreciate it. Can I say that the community is very appreciative that the national media has allowed us to share our grief with the entire country through opportunities like this. So thank you.
All right, and thank you again. That was Mayor of Hamilton, Bob Bratina.